All right, why don't we get going, guys? Grab a chair. We are excited tonight. We're going to talk about embracing adversity on your way to success. Isn't that exciting? We'll start with a little video here. Hopefully a motivational video. And then I'll do a little more introduction after that.
It's hard. Easy is not an option. It's hard living. Life is hard. See, it's hard when you're 49 years old, been working on a job for 17 years, and they come in and tell you you're finished and give you 1 week severance pay. You have to start all over again. It's hard when you're married and raising children and your children are crawling and your husband dies unexpectedly. It's hard handling just the tragedies of life. It's hard when you're working on something and you put everything you have in it and it doesn't work out. It's hard. Here's what I discovered that happens to you in life, that you will go through things, and while you're going through them, you can't understand why it's happening to you. But after you go through it, you get back and you look at it and you say, oh, now I understand why I needed that lesson. I couldn't understand it then, but after I got through it, then I saw that that was preparing me for bigger and better things. That as you go through the challenges of life, and you look at it and embrace whatever comes to you, don't run from it. Step toward it. Don't try and duck it like most people do. See, most people want it easy. See, easy come, easy what? Easy go. See, but when you go at what you're going to deal with and you deal with the difficulties of it, when you handle those hard things close at hand, making those hard decisions right now that you don't want to make, learning those things that you don't like to do, but you know that in order for you to get where you want to go, this is one of the hoops that you have to flip through. And I'm saying to you, whatever you got to do, do it, because if you don't, life is going to whoop you until you surrender. So if it's hard to do, it's hard. Now, how do you hang in there during the hard, difficult times? You must have faith. You've got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe in your abilities. You've got to believe in your service, your company, your ideas. Unquestionably. You've got to have faith. And that faith gives you patience. It's not going to happen as quickly as you want it to happen. A lot of things are going to happen that will catch you off guard. And so therefore you've got to deal with and handle it as it comes. Not only that, but that faith and patience drives you into action. You've got to keep moving and keep plugging away. And sometimes you're barely making any progress. Sometimes you're barely making any progress at all. And that tough situation is making you want to stop. And what you eventually learn is you can't stop. When you're going through tough situations, you gotta take that next step. You gotta keep moving forward. And I know we're going through a pretty tough situation right now in a lot of different ways. Take that next step. Keep moving forward.
Okay, well, that was a little positive and negative. At the end of the day, tonight, it will be positive, I promise. So welcome to Launch Class. This class tonight is on embracing adversity on your way to success. And I'm excited about it because you'll understand as we get through it, adversity is something that we actually can embrace. Because we have goals, we have dreams, and we need to get better and stronger to achieve these goals and dreams, and we need adversity. We don't learn in the good times, we learn in the tough times, right? So welcome to Launch Class. We commend you for being here. We believe in you. My name is Coach Al, and the other coaches have a similar name tag, and we're here for you. We're here for you because we believe in you, and we're here voluntarily. We want to help younger adults get more successfully launched into their careers and their family, health, finances, relationships, all these things that we remember struggling with and wishing in hindsight that we wish we had coaches like us. So that's the idea of Launch Class. So it's all about you tonight. We want to help you, help us to help you, and fill out that little survey to give us an idea, some indication of some of the subject matter topics that you'd like us to cover. And what we often do is we talk about the 7 areas of life. This is just a life choices diagram that was developed through a men's group that I've been part of for 4 years now. And it's just a way of looking at life, analogy of life, if you will. And there's 7 areas of life: spiritual, family, social, financial, career, physical, and mental. And so today, we're talking about adversity and getting through it, and there can be adversity in any of these areas, virtually. So this is an overall kind of approach to help get our thinking right. But the idea here is, here's you or me, and we have life pushing down on us and God pushing up in the good direction. Life squeezing us and putting pressure on us. It could be financial pressure, health pressure, time pressure, relational pressure, you name it. But life, we all know this, right? Life squeezes down on us, and we all know, at least we have a sense that God is encouraging us to go in a good direction. Kind of like good conscience, bad conscience talking to us, trying to get us to go different directions. So we're getting under pressure, we're getting squeezed, we have choices to make. We can turn left and avoid the problems and the trouble. We can go have fun, food, pleasure, shopping, etc., etc. And that's okay in moderation, right? Or we can turn right and go towards the problem, to deal with the problem. And that's hard to do by ourselves. And that's why we have Launch Class. You have coaches here. I want to help you and encourage you to go towards the problem. Because we know from experience that God meets us there. When we do that, God will meet us there. This is what we call the corridor of fear, uncertainty, doubt, that our nature wants to avoid. But what are we after? We're after lasting peace, happiness, confidence, fulfillment. Lasting, not just short term. Short term is turning left. Lasting is turning right. And we want to improve our family relationships. If we're married, for sure, have kids. We want to improve our social relationships. We want to improve our finances, our career, physical, health and fitness, mental, pulling it all together, spiritual. Spiritual can affect everything, which you talked about in some other lessons. So that's just a way of looking at life and helping us to analyze what's the matter or what we want to go after, set some goals in these areas. So that's kind of a foundational aspect of Launch Class that we'll always refer to. And as we're talking about around the tables in our small groups later, that's an opportunity. The small groups are the best opportunity we can talk about and share with others, talk about our challenges and our goals and dreams and things like that. And get good at talking about it and get some mutual encouragement from each other. So last week we talked about marriage and parenting strategies, because one of the high desires of Launch Class is to help to reduce the divorce rate. So we talked about marriage a fair bit, we talked about relationships a fair bit. The week before that we talked about finding and choosing a good spouse. So if you haven't caught that one, if you weren't here, check that video out on the website. Today is on embracing adversity on your way to success. And next week, it will be the mental area, 7th area. We'll talk about strategies for winning at life. And we'll cover topics like making good decisions, how to think strategically, how to have a good attitude, and the habits that build and can help us move towards the goals and success that we want. So let's jump into it. Why embrace adversity? Good question. Why would we want to do that? Our nature is to avoid adversity, right? Why would we want to embrace adversity? But what happens to us without challenges? If we're not challenged, what happens? Well, what often happens to lottery winners? I think most of us have heard the stories. Many, I haven't read the stats, but a lot of lottery winners, it ends up ruining their lives. They all of a sudden have all this money that they never had to deal with before, and it literally ruins their lives. All of a sudden they don't have to work, or they don't have the stress and struggle so much. They perhaps start partying too much. They end up blowing it, and now they're worse off than they ever were, right? Depressed and embarrassed. So we really do need challenges. If you think back in your life, in our small group gatherings later, we'll talk about that. Share some of the experiences of our lives where we had adversity, and we overcame adversity, and how that was good for us, right? So we can choose hard, easy, or easy, hard. Just a way of looking at things. Hard, easy, or easy, hard. So if we avoid adversity, that would be choosing easy, hard. And just like we talked about the lottery example, if we choose the easy way, which would be, for example, not working hard at our job, or not working hard at school, or not dealing with our responsibilities, if we choose the easy way, it's going to be harder later. Flip side, if we choose the hard way today, work hard today at our job or our school, or dealing with our relationships, our finances, it's hard not to go out and buy that new car on time, isn't it? To borrow money and buy that new car. That's the easy way. Borrow today, drive that new car, and guess what? We're really in a tough spot down the road. Bad thing to, when you're young, to go out and borrow money to buy a new car, for sure. Do the hard thing, save, 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 buy the car on cash, way better ahead. Don't buy new either. So hard, easy, or easy, hard. It's a really good little analogy of life to look at. You can look at almost every day. You have choices: hard, easy, or easy, hard. Remember that one. Adversity helps us learn and grow towards our goals. Adversity can come from just challenges of life. People mess up around us. Adversity comes on us. We deal with a bad boss. Adversity comes on us. Health problems. Adversity comes on us. That's one way adversity comes. But what you'll learn today is that that's part of life's design, and God actually allows it as part of the design because He wants to grow us. He wants to help us get stronger so we can have more impact and help more people. So adversity comes on sometimes out of our control, but adversity can come on in our own control. We can make mistakes, but we can also set big goals. And in setting a big goal, we bring adversity on, right? And that's not a bad thing. We bring on stress. Stress in and of itself is not a bad thing. There'll be another quote on that here. So adversity helps us learn and grow towards our goals. And when you're younger, when you're your age, when you're a young adult, it's much easier to have big goals and dreams. When you typically get to be over 40, for example, you've been beat up by life a lot and you give up often on your goals and dreams. And it's a sad thing. So we don't want that for you. We want to help you, encourage you, give you some of the tools so you can have more success and more impact with your lives. Quote from Rick Warren. Rick Warren's my favorite teacher. I listen to him every day driving to work. His Daily Hope podcast. We'll touch on that next week as well in terms of habits we can do. He says, God's more interested in our character than our comfort. Does that make sense? So he says, when you're going through crap in life, don't scratch your head why. That's just how it's designed. And that's a good thing. God's more interested in our character than our comfort. Does that make sense? Comfort doesn't help us. I think about people who, just as an example, who are born into a wealthy family and haven't had to work very hard. Are they attractive people on average? Are they accomplishing things on average? Not so much, right? And that's not to criticize wealthy families at all, because every family can be that way. Jim Rohn, when I was younger, I went to some of his seminars, listened to some of his tapes. I remember this quote from Jim Rohn: "Ask not for life to be easier, but for you to be better, for us to be better." How about that one? Now, I don't think he was a Christian guy, but I would say pray. Pray not for life to be easier, pray for me to be better. God, help me to be better. And that's one of the key points of tonight. We can ask God for help for us to be better and get through the adversity, to learn and grow, get stronger. Another little quote from a book I read years ago called The Road Less Traveled. This is the first couple sentences of this book. It's classic. Scott Peck said, "Life is difficult. This is the great truth, one of the greatest truths. It's a great truth because once we see it as truth, we transcend it. Once we truly understand and accept it, the fact that life is difficult no longer matters. Interesting, eh? That's true. So let's accept life is difficult, but it's actually, we believe it's difficult by design. Because God's more interested in our character than our comfort, and we need challenges to grow our character. Embracing adversity. One of our greatest sources of happiness is overcoming and achieving. So we've talked about this before. What are the key sources of happiness in life? Relationships are a foundational source of happiness in life. But also, one of our greatest sources of happiness is overcoming and achieving. Overcoming adversity and achieving our goals, right? So if people are coddled, protected, and given everything they need, we take one of their primary sources of happiness away from them. We actually steal from them. So when we go and help people to avoid the pain of life, in many regards, we can actually be stealing from them. We can be taking from them. We can be hurting them. We need to consider this. One of their greatest sources of happiness will be overcoming to achieve their goals. If we rescue people, including our kids, from the consequences of their mistakes, they won't learn and grow stronger and be able to thrive in life. Parents kind of understand that a little bit, but here's just something to keep in mind. There's some foundational principles here that'll help us a lot. Another quote from Rick Warren: God tests us with stress, or he allows it. We don't have to decide. Did God do this, or did God just allow it? We don't have to decide. We don't have to ask for stress or trouble. It comes. We don't have to worry about it. His quote is, God tests us with stress before he trusts us with success. As we talked about, success, or too much, call it financial blessing, can hurt people. If they've earned it, struggled, and grown, and gradually accumulated and learned how to handle it, then they'll be ready, most likely, right? If we throw $100,000 on a guy on the street, likely it's not going to help him. It likely will hurt him. That's why Rick Warren says, God tests us with stress before he trusts us with success. So keep that in mind if you have a big goal. Don't bemoan the challenges that come along. They're actually good, really good for us. The greater the difficulty or pain in pursuing and achieving a noble goal, the greater the reward or impact for overcoming it. And I added, with God. The greater the difficulty or pain in pursuing and achieving a noble goal, the greater the reward or impact for overcoming it, with God especially. God really wants to help us do that. That's the foundational premise of the launch class. I don't know if my battery's getting low on this thing, but we'll have to go manual. There we go. God's purposes of adversity. This is a couple quotes from, first quote from Oz Hillman. If you looked at the study material, one of those videos, the second one was on Oz Hillman. And I think he called it the 4 purposes of adversity. God's 4 purposes of adversity. Phenomenal video if you haven't seen it. But it's nice to know that when we go through struggles in life that there's a purpose, even especially if it's part of God's purpose. Then we can more readily accept it and understand it and study it, perhaps pursue it. So God, quote from Oz Hillman, God uses enlarged trials to produce enlarged saints. So he can use them for enlarged purposes. Lots of enlargement. And or put them in enlarged places. God uses enlarged trials to produce enlarged saints. So he can use them for enlarged purposes or to put them in enlarged places. So if you want to have a big impact with your life, most likely you're going to have to go through some good-sized trials. Seems to be a theme here tonight, isn't it? This is from the Bible. We celebrate in our tribulations. Tribulations can be trials, adversity. It's an old biblical word. We celebrate in our tribulations, knowing that tribulation brings about perseverance. And perseverance, proven character. And proven character, hope. So you can see how it works. Trials lead to perseverance, which is character. Leads to character, well, that's what it says. And hope. Perseverance, trials, tribulation, perseverance, character, hope. Romans 5:3-5. The more you get beat up and don't give up, but just hang in there and let God carry you, the stronger and more confident you'll get. In other words, tie a rope. When you're at the end of your rope, if that's saying, tie a knot in it. Just hang on. Sometimes that's all we can do, is hang on. Kind of believing that God's with us and for us, and He's working out the details around us. That's what this one talks about. The more you get beat up and don't give up, but just hang in there and let God carry you, the stronger and more confident you will get. I remember Rick Warren talking about how when his son died, his son actually killed himself. He was dealing with mental illness his whole life. And when he was in his 30s, he killed himself. And he's a famous megachurch pastor in the U.S. And I think a couple of months after his son died, he was interviewed. And he was asked, how do you feel? And what had happened in that 2 months after his son passed away, a lot of people attacked him and blamed him for his son's death and called him a loser and things like that. You know, took advantage of the situation. Here's what Rick Warren said. How do you feel? He thought about it. He said, it's kind of odd, but I feel invincible. After coming through what I've come through with my son's death and all the attacks, and I come through it, I'm still standing. He said he felt invincible. I thought that was classic. Last one, it's not stress that kills us, it's our reaction to it. That's a fellow named Hans Selye, S-E-L-Y-E. It's not stress that kills us, it's our reaction to it. And you've heard that said, it's not what happens around us, it's what we do, right? And so what is our reaction? What should our reaction be? Well, I added this quote from Proverbs. Proverbs 16:10 relates to what I just said in the previous quote. Be still and know that I am God. That is what God hopes and what God encourages our reaction to be. Be still and know that I am God. God's with us. Like that chart said on the life choices diagram. God's with us. He wants to be with us. He created us. He loves us. He wants to be involved in every aspect of our lives. Do it with us and help us. It's amazing. Okay, second last slide. God's purposes of adversity. Sometimes we tell ourselves, and this is from me, quote, I just can't do it. I don't have the discipline. I don't have time. I don't have the money. I don't have the connections. Ever heard those ones? I can't do it. Ever felt that way? I have, absolutely. First of all, we get what we speak. Never say can't. That's what we tell our kids, right? Don't say can't. You can. Just try. You'll figure it out. I can't ride a bike. Guess what? We'll practice. You'll learn. So, first of all, never say can't. The Bible says, quote, life and death are in the power of the tongue. Proverbs 18:21. In other words, we give life to what we speak, good or bad. So speak good. I can do it. I will do it. With God, I can do anything. That's another biblical passage. So don't say I can't. But even more important than that, we may be right in some regards, that we can't seem to overcome the obstacles, including having the discipline to do what we want to do. Have you ever felt that way? I certainly have. Why we're here. But have we ever asked God to help us? That is the major secret. He wants to help us, and is just waiting for us to ask Him. One of the most important things that we want to get across today. God's just waiting for us to ask. Last slide, embracing adversity for success. A couple quotes from Oz Hillman from his video, essentially. Facing our fears requires coming to a death in our expectations and instead leaving the outcomes to God. Because a dead man can't have stress. Kind of odd, isn't it? Facing our fears requires coming to a death in our expectations. So reduce my expectations and leave the results to God. That's his idea. Instead, leave the outcomes to God. Because a dead man can't have stress. So if you're giving it all the results, the outcomes to God. You've died to yourself, so to speak. That's another biblical concept. A dead man can't have stress. It's one of his key themes that he teaches. Second quote from him: every adversity in our lives is designed to give us an upgrade with God. If we press into him with our whole heart, great revelation, power, character, intimacy, influence will result. So I'll say it again. Every adversity in our lives is designed to give us an upgrade with God if we'll press into him with our whole heart. Greater revelation, power, character, intimacy, and influence. Isn't that what we want? That's from Hans Hillman. Wonderful teacher. I encourage you to check out his material. As a matter of fact, there's a book. A couple books. This is where some of this material comes from. Hans Hillman, he wrote the book, The Upside of Adversity, Rising from the Pit to Greatness. So his video is based on this book. And by all means, you can borrow it if you like. It's right here, along with these other books. Sign it up for a week or two. You're certainly welcome to. This is a quote from Bear Bryant, the winningest, I think the winningest college coach in history in the U.S. I think, college or professional football. It's not the will to win, but the will to prepare to win that makes the difference. Not the will to win, in other words, having a great tenacity on the field isn't as important as the will to prepare to win that makes a difference. Not the will to win, but the will to prepare. So these daily activities, these daily habits, which we'll talk about next week, when no one's looking, that's what gets us to where we want to go ultimately. And this is a quote from Mark Weinstein. Last one. The brick walls are there. Sorry, the brick walls that are in your way are there for a reason. They are not there to keep us out. They are there to give us a way, to show how much we want it. So, see this adversity as a challenge. I can do this. I can do this with the help of my coaches here in launch class. I can do this with the help of God. The bottom line is exactly that. What is our website called? If you can do it. That's what it's all about. So now we're going to break into small groups here. I'll introduce them. So let's take turns sharing with each other some of what we learned today. We get into small groups, and small groups are really, really helpful for us to discuss and learn more and articulate and put on paper some of what we're talking about and learning and growing, to put it into action. And then so you tell people around your table, share a memory of when you've overcome adversity. And you hear from other people and you realize we're all in the same boat. That's one thing that's really helpful for us, realize we're all in the same boat. And thirdly, share about a current adversity in your life and what you could possibly do to embrace it. When you do that, you'll get encouragement from the people around the table, and you won't be more likely to go for it and to tackle it. So beyond that, can you think of anyone else who might benefit from this message? We want to be here to learn, but we also want to pass it on. We want to be part of the mission of helping others to improve Calgary. So share it with them if you think of someone else who could benefit from this message. It'll be on the website here in a few days. Join the Launch Class mission. Tell a friend, invite a friend, help to improve Calgary. Next week's lesson will be on strategies for winning at life, how to bring it all together. So we're looking forward to that. I'm excited about it. Thanks, guys. Let's break to the second part here.